The abduction. The market square of Castris, for was alive with the clamor of voices, the hiss of steam from food stalls, and the metallic clank of cargo drones moving crates under the midday sun. Humans and aliens mingled under the colony's glass canopy, a living testament to the peace treaties that had ended the Vorrak-human war a decade earlier. Captain Mara Carter wove through the crowd with a sharp awareness of someone who had spent too many years in uniform. Her left hand rested casually on the strap of her shoulder bag. Her right never strayed far from the concealed sidearm at her hip. Beside her, 6-year-old Ellie darted between stalls, chasing the drifting scent of candied fruits. "Stay close, cub," Mara called, using the old spacer nickname she'd adopted for her daughter. Ellie giggled and slowed, at least for a moment. It happened in a blink. 1 second, Ellie was peering at a display of shimmering glass trinkets. The next, a shadow fell across her, blotting out the sun. A massive hand, black-scaled and clawed, closed around her small arm. The crowd froze. Conversations died. The Vorrak stood nearly 3 meters tall, its armored hide dark as obsidian. 2 tusk-like fangs curved from its lower jaw, and its slit-pupilled eyes gleamed gold in the harsh light. A name came unbidden to Mara's mind, Grathfern, though she had never met this one before. Ellie let out a startled yelp, more from surprise than fear, as the predator lifted her effortlessly, tucking her under one arm like a stolen prize. Every human within sight instinctively reached for a weapon. Every alien that wasn't human took a step back. No one rushed in. Everyone knew the same thing. Vorrak don't take hostages to bargain. They take them to feed. Mara's body moved before the thought fully formed. She shoved past a frozen merchant, her voice cutting through the air like a gunshot. "Vorrak, put her down." The predator didn't answer. Its gaze swept the square, searching, calculating. Then it moved, fast, shockingly so for its size, shouldering through the crowd and vanishing down a service corridor that led toward the industrial docks. Mara gave chase. Her earpiece crackled as the planetary security channel came alive. "Captain Carter, we have visual on your position. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage until a tactical team is in place." "Negative," Mara snapped, sprinting down the narrow steel-plated corridor. "They have my daughter." The trail was easy to follow. Panicked civilians pressed against the walls, some shaking, some muttering prayers. The Vorrak's heavy footfalls echoed ahead, mingling with Ellie's voice, small but defiant. The corridor spilled into an open loading bay, its far side dominated by an old cargo hangar. The Vorrak pushed through the wide hatchway, the door grinding shut behind him. Mara skidded to a stop beside the reinforced barrier. Security feed access was a thought away, her wrist implant synced with the hangar's external cameras. A grainy image appeared in the corner of her vision. Ellie, small and pale against the Vorrak's hulking silhouette. The claws were close, too close, but not poised to strike. The Vorrak wasn't feeding, wasn't roaring. It was still. Watching. Mara adjusted the feed's audio gain. Through the static, a low rumble reached her ears. "I am sorry, little one." Her breath caught. That wasn't hunger. That wasn't gloating. That was something she had never heard from a Vorrak before. An apology. Her instincts screamed that this wasn't a simple predator attack. There was something else here, something big. But that didn't change the reality. Her daughter was still in the hands of a warrior species that once decorated their ships with the bones of fallen enemies. She pressed her palm against the hangar's manual override panel. The lock cycled with a metallic groan. Her voice, steady but edged with steel, carried into the space beyond. "Grathfern," she chose the name deliberately, watching for any reaction on the feed. "You have my cub. You have one chance to walk out of here alive." Inside, the Vorrak's head tilted slightly. His grip on Ellie loosened, fractionally. The hangar door inched upward, light flooding in. Mara stepped through, her gaze fixed on the towering figure holding her daughter. Her muscles coiled. Her mind measured distance, angles, weapon draw time. And somewhere, beneath the pounding of her heart, one thought echoed louder than the rest. Why would a Vorrak apologize? The predator's truth. The hangar smelled of old metal and dust, with faint traces of lubricants from cargo lifters long since decommissioned. The overhead lights flickered, casting both predator and child in alternating bands of shadow and gold. Grath Vern stood motionless, towering over Ellie, his claws loose, but still encircling her arm. Mara entered slowly, unarmed in appearance, though every movement was calculated. She kept her hands visible, fingers spread, and her eyes locked on his. Ellie's voice broke the stillness. "Mom," she said with surprising calm, "he's not hurting me." Mara's gaze didn't waver. "Ellie, step toward me." Grath's deep voice rumbled through the hangar. "Not yet." The words were deliberate, precise, more controlled than the guttural growl she expected from a Vorrak. Mara filed that away. "I have no quarrel with the cub," Grath said. "But she was the only way to make you come alone." "Congratulations," Mara replied coldly. "You have my full attention. Let her go, and maybe you leave with your hide intact." Grath's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in something like frustration. "I do not want her blood. I need you." It was enough to stall Mara's trigger instincts. She'd studied Vorrak culture during the war. They did not lie lightly, and when they did, it was usually in service of pride, not deception. This one's tone was different, something weighted it down. Ellie, still in his grasp, looked up at him. "Why do you need my mom?" she asked, as if she were inquiring about the weather. Grath lowered his gaze to the child, and for a heartbeat, the edges of his posture softened. "Because my own cubs will die, if I don't." That made Mara pause. He shifted his stance, speaking low, as though the words themselves cost him something. "My mate and hatchlings were taken by Vorrak loyalists, those who cling to the old ways. They will kill them unless I deliver you to them alive." "Why me?" Mara asked, suspicion sharpening her tone. "You humiliated their fleet," Grath said bluntly. "They believe killing you will restore their honor." Mara's mind pulled up the memory, a battle 10 years past, when she'd lured an entire Vorrak strike wing into a dead moon's gravity well, wiping out their command ship. She had assumed those grudges died with the treaty. Ellie piped up again. "If you're trying to save your family, why did you say sorry to me?" Grath's head turned toward her, his golden eyes steady. "Because you are not my enemy, little one. You are a cub. Among my kind, to harm a cub without cause is dishonor." Mara studied him carefully. The Vorrak she knew from war stories wouldn't have cared about dishonor when it came to humans. And yet, here he was, holding her child with claws that could tear her in two, but choosing not to. "Then you made a mistake," Mara said. "Because taking a human cub hostage puts you beyond dishonor. My people won't rest until you're dead." His jaw flexed, tusks catching the light. "Then I am already dead. But if my death buys time for my mate and hatchlings, it is a trade I will make." For a moment, silence filled the space, thick as the heat in the air. Ellie wriggled slightly in his grip. "My mom's really smart," she told him earnestly. "If you just asked, she'd probably help you." Grath's throat rumbled. Not quite a laugh, but close. "Your cub is fearless," he said to Mara. Mara allowed the corner of her mouth to twitch upward. "She takes after her mother." The tension between them shifted, just enough to break the pure hostility. Mara took a slow step forward. "Let her go, and maybe we find another way. If what you're saying is true, I don't want your family to die. But you so much as flinch wrong, and I end you." Grath studied her, his expression unreadable, then glanced at Ellie, small, trusting, unafraid. Something in his stance eased, like a decision forming. Before he could act, the overhead speakers crackled. "Grath Vern, you have my cub. You have one chance to give her back." It was Mara's voice, but this time it echoed from a security drone feed overhead, relaying her earlier warning to the surrounding tactical units. They were closing in. Grath's eyes darted upward toward the sound, his grip tightening just slightly, not in aggression, but urgency. He looked back at Mara, and in that moment she understood. Time was running out for both of them. The Perrin arrives. The tactical units were less than 2 minutes out. Mara could hear the faint hum of their grav bikes through the hangar's thin plating. If they breached without understanding the situation, Ellie would be caught in the crossfire, and Grath knew it. Call them off, Grath growled. Let her go, Mara countered. They stood locked in a silent contest, predator and parent, each measuring the other. Ellie's wide eyes flicked between them, sensing the weight of the moment, but not its full danger. If I release her now, I lose my only leverage, Grath said, voice steady. If I keep her, I have a chance to save my family. Mara took another step closer, slow and deliberate, her hands still away from her weapon. You think you know how humans work, Vorrak? Here's the truth. Once I know the fight's worth it, I don't need leverage to keep my word. You give me Ellie, I'll help you. But if you keep her one more minute, I'll make sure the only thing your family gets is your corpse in a box. Grath's tusks shifted as his jaw clenched. The Vorrak had been a warlord once. He was used to reading the truth in an enemy's eyes. Mara's gaze held no bluff, no hesitation. Ellie, ever fearless, broke the tension with her small voice. She means it. Mom doesn't lie when she's mad. Mara gave her daughter the faintest smile, but her focus never left the predator. You said yourself, harming a cub without cause is dishonor. Prove you still have honor. The hangar filled with the hum of incoming grav bikes. Grath's nostrils flared. The Loyalists will kill them if I return empty-handed. They'll kill them anyway, Mara said flatly. You're a warrior, Grath. You know a bad deal when you smell one. But if we go in together, we can take them down before they hurt anyone. He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he hadn't expected to solve. Why would a human risk herself for a Vorrak's brood? Mara's voice hardened. Because family is family. Yours, mine, it doesn't matter. For the first time, Grath's grip on Ellie slackened enough for her to slip free. Mara didn't lunge for her. She knew that sudden movement might trigger a fight reflex. Instead, Ellie walked toward her mother with complete trust, like she was returning from an errand rather than a hostage crisis. Mara knelt, wrapping her daughter in a quick, fierce hug before pushing her toward the shadow of a nearby cargo loader. Stay there. Don't move until I tell you. Ellie nodded and crouched behind the machinery, eyes wide but dry. Mara rose to face Grath again. All right. What's your plan? Grath's answer was immediate. Deliver you alive to the mining site in the Iron Belt. Exchange for my mate and hatchlings. Leave before the Loyalists decide to kill you. That's not a plan, Mara said. That's a wish. The moment they have me, they'll kill us both and keep your family for leverage against someone else. His upper lip curled, not at her words, but at the truth in them. Then you have a better one? Yes. Mara stepped closer, within striking distance. We make them think you've got me captured. I walk in with you, bound, looking beaten. While they're celebrating, I take their leader out first. You get your family to safety, while I keep their fighters busy. Once your mate and hatchlings are secure, you come back, and we finish it together. Grath's golden eyes studied her. It is dangerous. It's war, Mara said simply. You've fought enough of them to know there's no safe option. The growl in his chest faded to something quieter, almost reluctant respect. And if you betray me? Mara's mouth curved in a humorless smile. Then I'm dead, and you've got nothing to lose by killing me. Outside, the whine of the grav bikes was now a roar. The tactical units were seconds away from breaching. Grath glanced toward the hangar doors, then back at Mara. He gave a slow nod. Your cub stays here. When this is done, you both walk away. Agreed. Mara keyed her comm to the security channel. Units stand down. Situation is contained. Do not breach. There was a burst of static, then a reluctant acknowledgement from the commander. The sound of the bikes began to fade. Grath released a breath through his tusks and stepped back, giving her space. Mara moved to Ellie's hiding place, crouched, and met her daughter's steady gaze. You're staying here, kiddo. I'll be back soon. Ellie frowned. Be careful, Mom. He's big. Mara smiled faintly. So am I. When she rose again, she walked to Grath without hesitation, every line of her body radiating readiness. Let's go, she said. The hunt for redemption. The Iron Belt was a graveyard of rock and shadow, its drifting asteroids lit only by the pale glow of the distant sun. The abandoned mining site floated in the void like a predator's lair, jagged docking platforms jutting out from the main structure. Grath's ship, a battered Vorrak raider, slid into the docking channel. Inside the hold, Mara sat on the deck, wrists bound in heavy restraints. The bruise on her cheek was carefully staged with a smear of soot. Her armor was gone, replaced by worn civilian clothes. She looked exactly like a prize delivered for execution. Grath loomed above her, playing the role of the victorious captor. Only his eyes betrayed the truth, focused, calculating, ready. "You still have time to change your mind," he rumbled as the docking clamps engaged. Mara flexed her shoulders, testing the hidden blade she'd taped beneath her sleeve. "Not my style. Let's get your family." The airlock cycled open with a hiss. 3 Vorrak loyalists waited on the platform, each clad in dark combat harnesses, plasma rifles slung low. Their leader, a broad-shouldered brute named Kor Drash, grinned at the sight of her. "Well done, Grath," Kor said, his tusks glinting. "The human who humiliated our fleet. She'll make a fine offering to the ancestors." "She's alive, as agreed," Grath replied, shoving Mara forward with convincing force. 2 more Vorrak emerged from a side corridor, dragging a bound female Vorrak and 2 smaller hatchlings. The mate's eyes locked on Grath, wide with fear and relief. Mara's pulse quickened. They were here, within reach, but the rifles pointed their way meant one wrong move could turn this into a bloodbath. Kor gestured to his guards. "Release the captives once the human is secure." It was a lie. Mara heard it in his tone, saw it in the way the guards' grips tightened instead of loosening. She had fought too many battles to mistake a death sentence for a promise. She caught Grath's gaze and gave the smallest nod.
"Now."
Mara twisted sharply, breaking the magnetic locks on her restraints with the concealed cutter hidden in the cuff. Before the nearest loyalist could react, she drove her elbow into his throat, snatching his rifle mid-collapse. Grath roared, a sound that filled the docking bay like rolling thunder, and hurled himself at Kor, claws flashing. The air erupted with weapons fire. Mara dropped into a crouch, firing precise bursts that cut down 2 guards before they could aim at the hostages. She moved like water, flowing from one position to the next, every shot deliberate. Grath was a whirlwind of brute force, slamming Kor into a bulkhead hard enough to dent the metal. The leader staggered, but countered with a vicious slash from his combat blade, leaving a shallow gash across Grath's shoulder. "Get your mate and cubs out," Mara shouted, tossing her spare sidearm to Grath's mate. The female Vorrak caught it with surprising ease and ushered the hatchlings toward cover. Kor lunged for Mara, but she sidestepped, grabbing his arm and using his momentum to slam him onto the deck. In one motion, she pressed her rifle to the underside of his jaw. "Yield," she said. Kor bared his teeth. "Vorrak do not yield to prey." "Then consider this a mercy kill," she replied, and pulled the trigger. The docking bay fell silent except for the rasp of Grath's breathing. The surviving loyalists dropped their weapons and backed away. Mara kept her rifle trained on them until Grath gave a short, sharp command in his own language. They fled. Grath turned to his mate, pulling her and the hatchlings into an embrace. For a moment, the Vorrak warlord who had once terrorized colonies looked simply like a father who had nearly lost everything. Mara slung her rifle over her shoulder. "Get them somewhere safe. The loyalists won't stop coming after you." Grath looked at her, golden eyes steady. "You risk your life for mine."
"For my family."
"This debt cannot be repaid."
"Sure it can," Mara said.
"You keep your people from making more orphans. And if you ever take another human cub hostage, I won't listen to your apology first." His tusks shifted in what might have been the Vorrak equivalent of a smile. "Understood." They parted on the docking platform, Grath leading his family toward their ship, Mara toward her shuttle. When she returned to Kestris, Ellie was waiting in the security bay, arms crossed like a miniature version of her mother. "You came back," Ellie said, as though there had been any doubt. "Of course I did," Mara replied, kneeling to hug her. "Told you I'm bigger than him." Ellie grinned. Yeah, but I think he liked you. Mara chuckled. Maybe. Or maybe we both just understand what it means to protect our own. Outside the bay's windows, the stars drifted by, cold and endless. Somewhere out there, a Vorrak warlord was keeping his promise. And for now, that was enough.